So a little birdie told me that you guys
Yes.
have a new album. Uh, how long has this been in the works?
The album was recorded back in May, so it's coming out in October the 4th, I believe.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about the sound of it? Is it going to be a rude shock to Hard-Ons fans?
No, no, I don't think so. I don't think that at all. It's we have a very it's a very melodic album. It's a very poppy album on the whole. There are two songs on there that you could call thrash because it's super fast. Um, but on the whole, it's kind of very poppy, very melodic, which we'll have always been known for anyway. But it certainly suits Tim, our singer's voice. This a lot of songs.
It's what I really what struck me when I first saw you in Tasmania, and I'm going to say around 2006, somewhere around that time, and
Hmm.
that you would it was just three dudes with their guitars strung really low, doing all these songs about just a lot of songs about girls, and then all of a sudden you would just bust out into some this balls out thrash metal, and I remember this being like, wow.
Yeah, we if you listen to a lot of our records, um it goes heavy metal and goes straight back into pop. But we do play a lot of thrash metal. I think we grew up listening to a lot of hard rock and heavy metal, and so we're very um, right into it, right into it.
Yeah. There's a track on the recent one. I'm paraphrasing, but it literally opened with Tim's just going, I got a bit banged up in the crash, but now I'm feeling fucking elated or something. And I swear the thing is done in under a minute.
Yeah, it's like I think that's like about 50 seconds or something. That's off the last album, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that you would classify that as thrash, I would say. It's really fast. Um yeah, there's a couple of those. I mean our drummer Murray, for example, he plays in lots of other bands, but he was also in a band called Captain Cleanoff, which was a grindcore band, and he likes that kind of drumming anyway. So
Oh,
and
bless.
the drum and when you saw us play in 2006, our drummer at that time would have been Peter Kostic, and he was he was a one-time drummer of Nazul, the black metal band. So we're used to playing really fast metal anyway, you know.
I like
So
it.
and yeah, when we first started, when we were going to Europe, we're playing with a lot of thrash and hard rock bands, as well as just straight out pop bands as well. So it's one of the good things about playing in the hard-ons. I mean, uh, we actually can get invited to lots of different um lot of different lineups, for example. So an example would be like the T-shirt that you're in right now, Napalm Death.
Hmm.
Their early records were on a label called Earache Records. And when I was a young man, and I used to be a pen friend and stuff, um, there was a guy that was his name was Digby, and he was friends with Brett from a band called Mass Appeal, who was a really good friend of mine. He's
Hmm.
still to this day a really good friend. And uh, Brett one day rang me and said, "There's this guy in Nottingham. He's just started a label, and he loves a lot of stuff that's coming out of Australia. He loves the hard-ons. You should write to him." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So we started trading things like tapes and stuff, and he sent me a whole bunch of records. And at that stage, he had one record out, and it was by a band from Seattle called The Accused, and the record was called Return Martha Splatterhead, and that was the only record he had. And then we just come out of the studio recording this record called Smell My Finger. It was our first album, and I sent Digby the tape, and I said, "Here you go, have a listen to this." and there were 8 songs on it, and 4 songs were just straight out pop, and the other 4 songs were like thrash metal. And he said, "I'll put it out on my label. I'm interested in putting it out on my label, Earache Records, but I only want the 4 thrash songs." And we said, "Well, we're flattered, but we can't, because we want our records to have that variety." So we said no, but that we'd always had that dichotomy of really heavy and really pop. But that's one thing I really, really enjoy about playing in the hard-ons.
Mm. Mate, the what can you tell me about the documentary? Because this has been in the works for a while.
Actually, there was a documentary being made about, I suppose, back in 2003. There was a guy named Michael making it, but he kind of dropped off, and Jonathan, who did the Radio Birdman documentary, took over, and then a few things happened during the COVID period, and the movie kind of went quiet for a while, but he managed to get it finished. And to be honest, uh, he was a big fan of the band. He's a big fan of the band, and he he thinks that the band has something interesting to say that would make a good documentary. And I asked him what that was, and he said, "Look, lots of things, not just musical, because." I mean, if one of us was making a movie about the hard-ons, somebody in the band, it would just be purely about what guitars we used on this album, and who the producer was, and how difficult it was to try and get a good drum sound on this particular record. But Jonathan, the filmmaker, thought that there were more stories to tell than just that kind of technical musical stuff, which I'm fascinated with. I'm basically with the hard-ons. I'm just really obsessed with the musical side of it, and I can barely think about anything else. Which is good because it means that when we put our mind to it, we can be really prolific. But other people see the side to the hard-ons that's beyond the music. One of the things is that well, we started off when we were very young. When we first started, I guess we were as young as that band from Newcastle, Silverchair, because the first time I heard that Blackie, the guitar player, was forming a band, he was 13. So the beginning of the band, the genesis, goes back to when that guy was 13, and by the time I joined the band, I was 16, and it felt like I got to join the band now before it becomes too late. I'm becoming an old man, and I just turned 16, and I was like, life's just going past me, and I need to join a band. And I joined the Hard-Ons when I was 16, and Blackie, the guitar player, was 15 at the time. But so the story is there beyond the music, because we're so young when we started, and we were from a very I suppose we're from a poor background. We grew up in a suburb called Punchbowl, which is a lower socioeconomic background suburb with lots of mainly immigrants. It's a real spot the Aussie kind of a suburb. And so there's interest there. And the three of us had different skin color and all that kind of stuff, and so and the band was called the Hard-On. So I mean, let's face it, Tom. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the band was doomed for failure. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean. It was like uh, uh, all the signs were there that the band wasn't going to be successful. The skin color, all the punks had short hair, we had long hair. We mix, we'd play a power pop song or a bubblegum pop song, and we'll go straight into thrash metal. So it was kind of like a dog's breakfast of a band, but somehow we're about to go to Europe in September, and that'll be our 21st trip to Europe. And we were broken up for 6 years in between.
Yeah.
Like we started. I mean, it's our 40th anniversary, but for 6 of those years, we're broken up. So it's pretty good going. So I guess. I mean, I think in a way, the movie is a story of like an underdog.
Was there anything off limits? Because obviously this got shelved when everything went down with Keish. Am I pronouncing his name right? Keish or Keish? I've never actually said it out loud.
It's Kesh,
Kesh.
and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, we explain what happened to. We can't explain what happened to him, but we can explain what we went through. Me and Blackie,
Mhm.
and also Murray, our drummer.
Mhm.
But it's not in this documentary. Because the movie was so long that the it looks like the movie's going to go over two parts. So the one that's coming out is about the band's um until 19 at the end of 93 when we actually break up.
Mhm.
So it's and after that the second part will it'll be about when we reformed, the different lineups, what we went through, um any weird stuff that happened with any of the members, we address it um, in a respectful way that we have to, and explain what we went through. And it ends up being a really good feel-good story anyway, because we get an old friend from the late 80s, Tim. He joins our band, and the first record we do with him actually makes the charts for the first time in our lives. He makes number four. I mean, he makes number four. It's phenomenal. We've never done that before. Um, I think it was a way for us to prove to ourselves that um, if we put our minds to it and fortify it with extra help from someone like Tim Rogers, we can um, come up with a chart buster, as it were.
Did the added sex appeal of Tim Rogers help the hard-ons, you reckon?
No, no, no. We had enough sex appeal before he joined the band.
True.
So yeah. So
Blackie's hair is quite
if
majestic.
yeah, yeah. Look, in all seriousness, getting back to your question, Tim is somebody who's very a commanding frontman. We told him that he didn't have to play guitar, just grab a microphone and do the frontman thing. So concentrate on singing and putting the song forward with his stage presence, and he's certainly he's very good at it. He's no slouch. He's no amateur, Tom.
No, he's not. He is not
No,
indeed.
no.
But as after, I love, by the way, I love uh, the parenthood things. I only just noticed that your I think that's a turntable, and I'm pretty sure that is a Bluey sticker.
Yeah, my daughter put that on there. Um, this is my office, and that's a Technics turntable that I had since I was 16, and I play records in here when I'm working. But we have a nice expensive turntable in the lounge room. But if a Bluey sticker went on that, I would absolutely crack it. On that one, they can put anything they want on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yep. Bloody stickers are the death of me. But after 40 years of doing this, minus 6 years, obviously, what are your survival tips for touring?
So I think it's to be accepting of other people. When I was young, I was a lot less flexible in the way my outlook on other people was a lot less flexible. But now I accept if I'm on tour with somebody, um, I assume that they're my friends. I mean, there's nothing more magical. Tom, do you play in a band?
I don't know, but I'm just a rabid music connoisseur. I've been involved in it since I was a kid. So
Yeah. So I wish if you had played in a band, I could actually I could ask you, what do you do when, you're in a van with someone and that kind of stuff. But in this case, I can't. But um, the thing about playing music, I find it so rewarding. Playing in the band with the right people. Um, so with the Hard-Ons, obviously I've known Blackie and Kesh since I was in primary school, and over the years, for whatever happened, I stayed friends with Blackie. With Kesh, our relationship, obviously there are things to be addressed in the future when I see him. And it's very hurtful, I'm sure, for everyone. Um, but yeah, look, with other people in the band, I tell you, I wouldn't play in a band with people I didn't like. It's too hard. Um, I did play in lots of bands, a few bands that where I didn't get along with everybody, and I was like, oh, this is a pain in the neck. I just, why am I doing this? Um, but with every band that I've been in for the last whatever years, I just really enjoy the company of these people. But the thing is, a lot of musicians tend to be just like really weird people. Um, some of the things that make people really good at what they do musically, um, some of it comes from a place of like uber focus, very being fixated and very dedicated to a vision of somebody's art to the point where you could think that it's myopic or whatever, or pig-headed. Um, you just work through these kind of issues with all the people that are in the band, and you accept that's what they're like, and try and get your message across if you have a differing opinion. Um, and at some point, you have to come to the realization, playing in a band like this, like a rock and roll band, it's not democracy. I mean, democracy is a fantastic concept to apply to in politics, but in 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 a band, it's not a democracy at all. People have very clear, defined roles in what they have to do. And I learned this playing in a three-piece band for a long time. The Hard-Ons it was a three-piece band, and in a three-piece band, there is no escape. If you're not pulling your weight, the band just disappears. Everyone has to be completely 100% dedicated to that song and that performance, and that's a great learning thing. Anyone wanting to form a band tomorrow and they're young and I've never formed a band before, I would recommend playing in a three-piece band, one guitar, one bass, and one drums. Mind you, I mean, no, don't let me talk you into doing anything. I mean, it's not my business anyway. But a three-piece is a very, very powerful learning tool, when you start. It teaches you about really putting in to make sure that things don't fall apart. Because the moment in a four-piece band, one person could drag the chain and the others can hide he or her their performance. But in a three-piece, you have to be on it. And what was the question?
That was survival tips. Yeah, for tourists.
Yeah. I think learn how to play really, really well, and then know your role, and once you learn the role, then just accept that it's not a democracy. Somebody will write a song and have this vision, and the moment that song comes out of he or her or their brain, it's compromised because you can't capture what's in their head. But your job is to try and recreate it for them. And so once you get rid of the ego that you're going to put your stamp on it or change things, and you try and play that song, then you know you'll be better off for it. And one of the process involved would be to get rid of this idea that it's a democracy and you're going to put your 10 cents worth when it's not needed. Where it's needed, by all means, go for it. But a lot of the times, um, it's not a democracy. You have a clearly defined role of what to do, and that's what you got to do if you want the band to continue. Um, that's just my 10 cents worth anyway. And that's how all the bands that I've been in have worked really well. You have a couple of people who are like, have very clear goals on where the song's going because they were the songwriter. And then you just follow them and try and facilitate it. And that, you can throw a lot of ideas in and out, but if it's interfering with the song, then you just stop doing it and go back to what the songwriter wanted in the first place. It sounds a bit brutal, but to me, it works really well for us.
As someone who is a sweaty mess right now and really stinks, I have to ask, how often do you get to wash your clothes when you're on the road?
Um, I we don't go away for more than 2 weeks at a time. Mind you, next year I think we're going overseas for 3 weeks next year, but the most we would go for would be 2.5 weeks or something like that. And what I do is I take one t-shirt and I shove that in my guitar case, and that's what I wear on stage. And I let that catch the sweat. And I have one pair of shorts, and I put that in my guitar case, and that's what I wear on stage. So the stage funk, and believe me, there's nothing worse than stage funk. It's that's a zoo on its own. That is like, I mean, David Attenborough would have a field day. So whatever's happening with a pair of sweaty shorts or a sweaty t-shirt, you isolate that disaster zone by putting it in your guitar case and closing it. And then the next day when you have to play, you get out of your clean clothes and then just put on the rubbish, the one that's covered in sweat. And the Hard-Ons have an added bonus that after about 3 songs, we play bare-chested anyway. So all the sweat actually falls onto your shorts. And those shorts, seriously, I'm sure if I left them on a hotel bed, they would start walking by themselves. It's really gross, but I deal with, touring funk by not washing too much. What I do is I figure out how many pairs of undies do I need to take over a period of uh, 2 weeks. I would say 14 pairs, one a day. And then I go, I don't want to take 14 pairs in a bag on tour. So how many do I take? 7. I take 7. That means I would have to wear one pair twice. And every now and then I would come unstuck. I would say I really need to wash something. So instead of going to the laundry, what I do is I get the underwear and I wash it in my sink. When whoever I'm sharing the room with doesn't notice that I'm doing it. Um, so I would wash it, and sometimes I'd take it in the shower with me. As I'm having a shower, I use the underwear to wash my hair and my armpits. And what that does, I use it like a rag and a sponge to wipe myself down, my undies, my bonds, jocks. But at the same time, it's getting soap and shampoo on, so it's being washed anyway. So I kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And once I determine that's clean, I wring it out. I wring it as much as I can until there's hardly any more moisture left, and I don't have the strongest grip in my band. But it's not something I can do. I can't knock on the next door and go, "Hey, Blackie, can you wring my undies out? I know you've got a stronger grip." I'm on my own, so I wring and wring and wring. And sometimes what I do, because underwear has 3 holes, I would get the holes and put it over a faucet, like a tap, and then squeeze using both hands, using the faucet as a fulcrum, which does not move. And then once most of the moisture's out, then I drape that over my guitar case, and that dries. Normally by the next day it's dry. If it's still not dry, the next day I put it back over the guitar case. And that's what I do. Um, that's straight from the Bon Scott School of Touring. You know the Bon Scott School of Touring?
I do not know the Bon Scott School of
Okay,
Touring.
so Bon Scott t School of Touring was, and this is a true story because um, one time roadie of the Hard-Ons was a guy named Pat Pickett, who was Bon Scott's housemate in Bondi, and he was the roadie for AC/DC for a while there while Bon was in the band. And this is verified by me by reading AC/DC biographies and when I met Malcolm Young from AC/DC, I said, "Hey, you know your old roadie Pat Pickett works for used to work for us." He said, "Oh yeah, Pat, yeah, we like him." Anyway, what this guy told me, Pat Pickett, the original Ray Birdman roadie, the Bon Scott method of touring is take one pair of undies on tour, one, and couple of t-shirts, and then you wash that every night. So what I described to you, do that every night. Just keep on washing it. So I mean, oh God, who could be bothered, you know? But there's something to be said about traveling really, really light. So when I go on tour, I would pack my bag and then I would halve it. Whatever I've got, I would just halve it. So that normally means that instead of taking uh, five t-shirts on tour, I would take two and a half, you know, or if instead of taking 14 pairs of undies, I would take seven. And I would say for a 2 week tour, 7 pairs of undies would be maximum. But yeah, if I run out, there's always the faucet and the sink, you know, it really does work.
I've no doubt. It just reminds me of I finally in 2020 read Get in the Van, and I know you've worked with Henry before, and the stories of you know the reason he used to perform in just a pair of shorts is because he didn't want to get his clothes dirty.
I reckon there's something to be said because I learned from um, a very young age. And the first time the Hard-Ons went on tour around Australia it was 1985, so I was like 19, going on 20, you know. And first tour of Europe, um, the first tour of Europe was 88, so I was 20, 21, or 22. 22. I would have been 22. So that was the first trip to Europe was 22, and since that first trip, we've been back 20 times, you know. Um, so I learned something there. It's um, uh, yeah, fresh clothes. They do become really valuable on tour, but I basically isolate everything by making sure that I only wear one pair of shorts on stage and one t-shirt, um, if at all, you know. And it really does work. But it's you just can't do that if you're in. I like, for example, Tim. Tim plays in You or My, but if he's singing for You or My and playing guitar for You or My, he can't turn up on tour wearing a pair of footy shorts and a singlet on stage. You know what I mean? It's, I mean, Nick Cave can't walk on stage in a pair of stubbies and a pair of thongs. It's because because we're, you know, the most important, like for example, Tom, if I said to you, I'm a malicious god and I'm going to get rid of one of your faculties, um, I'm going to either make you blind or make you deaf, and you got a choice. What would you take? I'll bet you would take going deaf.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. As
100%.
much as it would kill music, like
Yeah,
fuck, that would kill me. But yeah,
that's right. And forget about taste or smell or any of those things. As much as you love music, you prefer to be to be able
sighted.
to
Yeah,
see, right? It doesn't matter if you go deaf as long as you've got your sight. So we are primarily vision focused creatures, right? So what was the question?
There was we were talking about we were talking about touring hacks and
Yes,
yeah, we were talking about laundry and things like that.
yes. So when it comes to someone like Nick Cave or UMI or one of those bands, how they present themselves visually is part of what they do, you know. And if I was paying money to go and see Nick Cave at the Opera House, I don't want to see him wearing a St Kilda a football jersey. You know what I mean? So, but there are every now and then you will come across patches of music, genres of music where somebody in the people in the band can wear whatever the hell they want, and in fact, it enhances what they do. And one of them would be Black Flag, Henry Rollins, and the other one would be a band like the Hard-Ons. Eh, you know, we the first time we went to Europe, uh, we met punks that had definitive spiky hair and leather jackets, and they were in the crowd, you know. Um, and if you look at photos of our tour, I mean, we're wearing shorts on stage with nothing else, no shirt. Um, Sometimes we're not even wearing shoes. So I guess that's what we were into, and it worked for us, and people accepted, hey, this works for them, you know.
Hmm.
And in that regard, we're very, very lucky. Touring is a piece of cake, you know. We don't have to worry about you know, suits getting dirty or clothes getting dirty. We're not worried at all. You know, we travel. I travel. I personally travel really light. I carry a suitcase on tour, but my clothes just go on the edges. The middle of the suitcase is all merchandise for the band that we're going to sell.
I love it, though. Right. This has been rad. I will be hoping to see you on this tour because, as I said, I have not seen you guys since like 2006 or something. So this will be awesome. Thank you very much for your time, mate. And
Oh,
yeah,
thanks, Tom. Thank you.
no worries.
We're heading up your way, 18th of October.
Yeah,
If you feel like coming, that's a Friday. If you feel like
yeah,
coming. All right.
absolutely. I'd love to.
Great, Tom. Okay, we'll put you on the guest list. Just get in touch with our publicist and we'll put you on the door.
Mad lad. All right, mate. I'll
All
see you
right.
then.
Thanks, Tom. All the best to you. Thank you.
You too, mate.